All right, Algebra 1, let's finish up our 2-1 notes here with section 2-1e, multiplying a binomial by a trinomial. So this is going to be 2 terms through 3 terms. We're going to finish up review section 2-1d, which was a binomial by a binomial. So I have this one done here. Let's just talk through it. So first of all, we distribute 4y through. Remember, when you do this, you should have 4 terms in your first step like I have right here. I try to color code it so you can see the 4 separate terms. So we start off 4y times 5y. Multiply the numbers out front. 4 times 5 is 20. Y times y is y squared. And then we do 4 times negative 7. Don't forget the sign in front of it goes with that number. So 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. And then we bring the y down because the 7 doesn't have a y to combine with it. So that y just comes down. And then when we distribute this through, again, we don't forget the negative that is in front of that goes with the sign, or that sign goes with the number. So negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Since the 3 does not have a y, this y just comes down. And then negative 3 times negative 7 is a positive 21. And then our numbers with the same letter, same variable, and same exponent, those are your like terms. They get combined together. So you take your calculator, you do negative 28 minus 15 is negative 43, and this is your final answer. All right, so what we are doing today is very similar to that. The only difference is, if you can see this right here, our second set of parentheses has 3 terms instead of 2 terms. But it's the exact same process, and this is why I was telling you on that first set of notes, it is very, very important that if you do not understand what's happening, you need to ask, because we're constantly building on this topic, and this is our final one. The first day we did 1 term through 2 terms or 3 terms. The second day we did 2 terms through 2 terms, and now here's the third and final day where we do 2 terms through 3 terms. But it's the same process, we're just doing it multiple times. So let's take this x and multiply it through. So x times x squared, remember we add those exponents, so this has a 1 plus 2 gives us x to the third. Keep going. X times negative 4x is negative 4x squared. Add them. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then the final one, x times 1. Well, remember 1 times anything is just itself, so that's just x. And then we're going to take this 9, and we're going to multiply that through. 9 times x squared is 9x squared. 9 times negative 4, don't forget that negative goes with it, is negative 36. 9 times negative 4 is negative 36. And then we bring down the x because the 9 doesn't have an x. So we can't add exponents if there isn't another variable there. And the last one, 9 times 1 is just 9. Okay, so that process there is not new, it's just an extension of an old process that we've already done. So now we want to combine like terms. So start with your highest power. You always want the highest exponent to be first. So x to the third does not have anything to combine with it, so we write it down first. Next we look at our x squared. Well, I have an x squared right here, and I have an x squared right here. Add them together. Use your calculator. Negative 4 plus 9. Well, negative 4 plus 9 is 5. So I have 5x squared terms. Next, go down to your x's. Well, here's an x, and here's an x. Add the numbers out front. Well, this one has a 1, even though it's not visible. There's a 1, so 1 minus 36. Use your calculator. That's a negative 35x. And then I get down to my numbers with no variables, and all I have is a 9, so plus 9, nothing to combine with that, and I'm done. Okay, so same thing that we did yesterday, we're just extending that. Instead of 2 terms, now it's 3 terms. And then we combine like terms, but instead of there being 1 set of like terms, like we saw here, we had 1 set of like terms here in the middle. Now we have 2 set of like terms. You can see here I have them circled in black and then circled in green. So I have 2 set of like terms in the middle instead of 1 set, like in the 2-1D notes. Other than that, it's basically the exact same thing. All right, so let's run through a couple more examples here. I have this next one here already done, so let me just talk you through it. So first up, let's multiply 6n through. So 6n times 2n squared. Multiply your numbers. 6 times 2 is 12. And then n times n squared is n to the third. Add the powers. 6 times, this is a 1, is 6. N times n is n squared. Last one, 6n times 7. 6 times 7 is 42. N times no n is just n. And now we're going to multiply the negative 8, and don't forget the negative. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. N squared. Negative 8 times n is a negative 8n. And then negative 8 times 7 is negative 56. And now I'm ready to add my like terms. So first of all, start with the highest power, n to the third, bring that down. 6n squared and negative 16n squared, those are like terms because they have the same variable, same exponent, they're both n squared. Use your calculator. 6 minus 16 gives you negative 10. So I have negative 10n squared. Then I go on to my n's. 42n minus 8n is 34n. And then I have this minus 56 with no other number to combine with it, so I bring it down. And I'm finished. That's it. 2 steps. Next one, also done for you. Let's walk through it again. 2x times 4x squared. And again, if you need to pause and rewind, go ahead and do that. Come back whenever you're ready. 2x times 4x squared. Multiply your numbers. 2 times 4 is 8. X times x squared is x to the third. Next, 2x times x. Well, 2 times, this is like a 1. That's just 2. And then x times x is x squared. I know I already have these circled, so sometimes it may be a little difficult to see. Last one, 2x times negative 6. This is a negative 12x. Okay? So 2x squared right here plus 2x squared. This right here is a minus 12x. If you can't see it with the line here, that's a minus 12x. All right, next we're multiplying the negative 3 through. So negative 3 times 4x squared is a negative 12x squared. Negative 3 times 1x is just a negative 3x. And then negative 3 times negative 6, negative times negative is a positive 18. All right, now we're ready to add our like terms. Bring down the 8x to the third. There's only one 8x, or there's only one x to the third term, and that's the 8x to the third, so we bring that down. Now we add our like terms, so the one circled in black here, 2x squared minus 12x squared is a negative 10x squared. Negative 12x minus 3x, one circled in green, are like terms. That's a negative 15x. And then my final answer, or my final term here, 18, nothing else to combine with that 18, so I bring it down. Okay, D and E, I have these two that I will do with you. And the reason why is because they are switched. And what I mean by that is if you look at the other examples, A, B, and C, there was the 2 terms first and then the 3 terms. These have the 3 terms first and then the 2 terms. So I'm going to do these differently, okay? I'm going to do this one where, excuse me, I'm going to take this y squared and multiply it through this way. All right, so y squared times 2y, that's 2y to the third. Y squared times negative 5 is negative 5y squared, right? Nothing new there. That's the same old thing that we've been doing. Now I'm going to take my negative 6y and multiply it through this way, just like we've been doing. Negative 6y times 2y. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12y. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. Y times y is y squared. Negative 6y times negative 5. Negative 6 times negative 5 is now a positive 30. And then y times, there's no y here, so we bring that down. And now this is where it can get a little messy. If you have different color ink or pen or pencils or whatever, you can do it. But what you may need to do if you're using pencil is you may need to kind of erase this and rewrite it in, take the 3 and multiply it through just so it doesn't look too messy. 3 times 2y is 6y. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. If you're doing it that way, that's up to you, just so it doesn't, because otherwise you're going to end up with all of these arrows in here, and sometimes it just gets to be a little bit messy when you do it that way. So just whatever works for you, just do it however you can do it to make sure it's not getting too clustered in here, and it's just a mess. All right, so adding my like terms, 2y cubed, bring that down. Now the nice way about doing it this way is, look what happens. My y squared terms, they're right next to each other. So this guy right here is a like term with negative 12y squared. So add those together, negative 17y squared. And then 30y plus 6y, these are like terms as well. So add those together, and I end up with plus 36y. And then again, I have this minus 15 with no like terms to combine it with, so I bring that down. All right, last example. Now, if you remember, I don't know when you would have learned it, but if you remember, multiplication is what's called commutative. And what that means is we can multiply numbers in any order, and we still get the same answer. So like 6 times 10 is equal to 60, just like 10 times 6 is equal to 60, right? I can multiply those numbers in any order, and I still get the same answer. So I don't have to multiply the first one through by the second one. I can multiply the second one through by the first one. And what I mean here is I can take this and multiply backwards like that. So let's do it that way. That way we don't have that everything getting bunched up in there with all of those arrows, like I said right here, where we have all these arrows kind of running into each other. I can multiply backwards like this if we want to. So 8p times 7p squared, 8 times 7 is 56, p to the third. 8p times 5p will be plus 40p squared. And then 8p times negative 1 is a negative 8p. Okay, so you always have this option. You can do it like this. We just multiply through backwards. 9 times 7p squared is going to be plus 63p squared. 9 times 5p is going to be plus 45p. And then 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. So you can see that kind of eliminates that, arrows getting all bunched up in there and making it look all messy and everything. It just helps to keep your work a little neat if you start with the parentheses that has 2 terms and multiply it through the one that has 3 terms. Again, that's totally a preference thing there. You don't have to do it that way. That's entirely up to you. All right, now like terms. First of all, bring down the 56p to the third. I have a 40p squared and I have a 63p squared. Add those together, plus 103p squared. Move on to the p terms, negative 8p plus 45p. Okay, so break out your calculator. You do negative 8 plus 45. If you want to use your calculator, just enter those first numbers there. You get, oops, forgot to switch it back. 37, so plus 37p. And then again, we have the minus 9 here, nothing to combine with that. Minus 9. Okay, so again, this is the last time that we're going to be doing this distributing concept here. So if you're still not sure about these, this is the last day to make sure that you get your questions answered. So make sure that you let me know. If you have any questions on this, send me an email, send me a private comment, and I will make sure that I get back to you and try to get all your questions answered. So just make sure that you let me know if you have any questions.